been watching this the thing a lot of people don't get about transitioning in relation to like being connected to the LGBT spectrum and whatnot, and how things are nowadays, where kind of people who transition have taken the very much the spotlight of the LGBT spectrum, is that like all the hate that's being flung at us, right, is all hate that hails from previously in the LGBT spectrum. It's all the same hate that like people who are homosexuals dealt with. And separating the two is idiotic. Largely because there's strength in numbers. But I walked away from, I more or less largely walked away from like vlogging consistently on this channel. And, you know, like I have a partner and I don't have the same space to vlog in. I got this crappy phone. I just kind of was like, nobody's paying attention anyway. Sort of, kind of, who knows? But I was definitely one of the main contenders in a lot of discussions. That I do know. And that's a large part of the reason why I stuck around for such a long time. And this is one of the things I've brought up numerous other times, is the fact that, right, all the things that people are flinging at us, at people who transition, is all the bullshit that has been flung at gay people since time eternal. And so how is it like largely different? Now, I remember watching this like thing from like the, I think the 60s on this one channel, and they had these, they called them drag queens then at that point, these drag queens who wanted to get bottom surgery and wanted to get like to be a full woman and all this sort of jazz. And but they very much were labeled as being drag queens, and they would go to these gay balls and gay men would show up, you know, to dance with them and stuff like that. And it's like, it's so utterly screwy. It's so utterly screwy, because what gay dude is interested in me? Right? What gay dude is interested in this? Right? Or this? Or my being very femme? What gay dude is interested in that? Maybe some lesbians, but gay dudes? It just, I don't know. I've been watching this one channel, and this one channel is very much dictating what's going on and what's being said. And I watched this other trans girl today talk about how she doesn't feel like people who transition should be part of the LGBT spectrum. It should be two different things. And I get that. I completely get that. Like, I completely get that because I've been there. I completely get that where I've been there, and I'm like, you know, like, I don't want to be labeled as being something like a gay man, right? That is not why I transitioned. If I was a gay man, I would just be a gay man. But it doesn't, that is not me. Coming in?
Yeah, I was going to grab my phone.
That is not me. Never was, really. You know, and it's not her either. Right? And she's saying, though, that, like, largely, you know, like, but if she is a part of the LGBT spectrum, right, then straight guys are don't want to have any interest in her, right? And the means of liberating herself of that is to not be a part of the LGBT spectrum. That's, you know, that's nice and all, but do you really think that those guys who don't have any interest in you, you know, would see you differently? I don't think so. I think they're just that shallow. They're just that shallow. They just don't have the intellect to pull through it. You know? They're not open-minded enough. But and on top of that too, it's like she was talking about how the gay girls who transition are largely a minority. Okay, but at the same rate too, it's like the majority of people who transition are a minority. Like, we are talking about a minority, right? And do you think that, like, being secular, being different, being outside of that, somehow being, like, do you think you're going to automatically become associated to the cis world? You know, like, there's such a multiplicity of different opinions and ideas. You even get, like, trans girls who are like, I'm a dude. Isn't that cool? I'm a dude. I don't look like a dude, but I'm a dude. I'm biologically different than a dude, but I'm a dude. You get other ones who tell you that I'm not. Like, you get a lot of girls who transition who are gay, who do not identify as being transgender. Like, I'm just female. I'm not transgender. That's how I am. You know, that's how my girlfriend accepts me. That's how it is between us. When I was dating another girl who was another girl like me, we didn't talk about we didn't misgender each other. We didn't talk about we didn't see ourselves as being a separate gender or something. But all this stuff that people are like, it's largely a lot of these, it's spilling over the border from America, right? There's all these, like, think tank channels type things where they have people get up and they debate. They have these debates or think tank lectures and whatnot. And it just, the toxicity of it just spills over the border through social media into my country, where we largely don't necessarily have a lot of these problems, right? We're not still hung up on, you know, as of 10 days ago, like this one Jubilee channel that's very conservative, that is, you know, they brought on Blair White and, you know, about us being in the washroom. Like, this is just not an issue over here on this side of the border. Really isn't. You know, we're also not banning abortion over here. We're also not blocking people from transitioning over here. We're also not putting people in jail for helping other people transition over here. And so on and so on and so on. We did have slavery and segregation, though. It's just like, it's completely just idiotic. Like, bring up these old school issues like bathroom politics for trans people. You know, it's like, You know, like the first person who molested me in my life was a woman. You know, An has a story about working in a bar and about how there was these two lesbian women who came in and tried to rape another woman, right? And she had to break it up, right? This idea that like cis women are somehow completely innocent, you know, there is never any atrocities completed by cis women. Cis women are always the victim. It's not true, right? There's inequality. There's inequality for cis women. There's inequality for trans women. There's inequality for homosexuals and heterosexuals, and there's all kinds of inequality. There's race inequality. You know, but they label us as being like predators and whatnot, right? And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to something like pedophilia, right? You try to label homosexuals as being pedophiles or whatnot, right? Ratio-wise, you know, there are more straight people in the world than there are gay people, right? And pedophilia is not specific to homosexuality, right? Obviously, everybody knows this, right? Hence, there are far more pedophiles in the straight side of sexuality. I don't know, it's just like I get tired of listening to all this like toxic crap, and I guess I could just turn it off if I wanted to, or I could just walk away if I wanted to. But I also just feel like it is not, what good is it going to do? How is it going to make my life any better? It's not. It's not just like the straight world, right? It's not just the straight world that villainizes people like me, especially gay ones like me, right? That villainizes people like me. It's also the LGBT. The LGBT also villainizes people like me. Even people like me villainize people like me, right? The straight ones villainize the ones who are gay, and just like all kinds of crap. And what most of us are out here doing on like social media platforms or whatnot is beating it to submission to suit ourselves. And what a lot of people don't, again, realize is that this is very much a spectrum, right? When it comes to talking about like people who transition, when it comes to talking about LGBT people, when it comes to talking about human sexuality, humans, you know, people who transition, LGBT people, heterosexuality, this is all within the spectrum of sexuality, gender identity, right? It's a spectrum. It's spectrums within spectrums within spectrums. The trans spectrum itself is a spectrum. You know, these stupid arguments that non-binary people aren't people who transition from binary to non-binary is, again, just another idiotic argument. You know, and for the fact of that matter, it's like, you want people like me. If I want to exist, right? If I want to exist, then I have to support other people who are like me, right? Am I non-binary? No. But what if I was? What if I was just on hormones and identified as being non-binary? There's other people who would say that I am non-binary. I am a third gender. I belong in a third gender washroom, right? How does that make any sense? I belong in a third gender washroom because of why? Because I make cis women uncomfortable? What about the lesbians who go in and use the washroom? What about sexual orientation? Does sexual orientation not apply to that? If you view me as being some sort of like villain, some sort of predator or whatnot, do you not think that like lesbians would be the same thing in the women's washroom? Do you not think that trans men would just be perverted women in the women's washroom trying to live out some sort of like gay male fantasy that they have in their head or something? So what are you going to do? Are you going to give an individual type of person a washroom? The straight trans girls, the bi trans girls, the trans girls identify as being men, the trans girls identify as being women, the trans girls identify as being trans, the black trans girls, the Hispanic trans girls, the lesbian trans girls, you know, the ones that identify as being binary versus the one being non-binary. Are you going to give everybody their own toilet, their own washroom? Completely ridiculous. You know, I had everyone on YouTube who was every other trans girl on YouTube came for me at one point because I said, you know, we don't need to tell him, you know, what's between our legs. You don't need to tell him. What we need to live in is a society where it's like if you find out something about somebody that you're being intimate with or amorous with and you don't like it, then you walk away. And the same thing should apply because it requires a level of civility, right? Requires a level of humanity and a level of civility. You know, we need to live in a better society. You know, when you're talking about like washroom politics or something, as stupid and archaic that is in this day and age, right? You need to look at society. Right? Should we not live in a better society? You know, everybody's pointing the finger at someone like me, right? Maybe I'm just reflecting mirror. Maybe I'm just reflecting back everything that you all toss at someone like me. Maybe the things that you accuse me of are more things that are innate to you than me. A lot of which these things are like spilling over the border from America into Canada. These very toxic, political, ignorant sort of things. They're spilling over the border into my country and making life difficult for somebody like me. You know, you have the DeSantis camp, right? Who is like wanting to like completely eliminate the idea of transitioning. Completely villainizing people like me, saying things like there's no such thing as LGBT, it's just people who go through phases in life, and just all kinds of bunk. You know, coming after Disney for trying to make like LGBT supportive content. You know, and now we have in Canada, right? Now we have politicians in Canada who are fascists, right? Hurling the term fascist over at other politicians who aren't fascists, but, you know, and who are doing things, you know, in terms of like something like using gender politics or using pronouns and whatnot, you know, for youth. You know, and wanting to leave all the decision-making power in the hands of parents. Well, okay, well, historically, or historically, their historically, our history, you know, has it not been that like having your family know that you are gay, right? Or you're trans, or you're bisexual, or something, right? Did you not automatically hide that from your family? Why? Why? You know, did that work? Did coming out to your family 20, 30 years ago, or even today, work? Hey, Dad, I'm a gay dude. Hey, Dad, I'm a lesbian. Hey, Dad, I'm a non-binary genderqueer person. You know? Typically the response is, you know, I'm not going to have any faggots living under my roof. Right? And really all of these stupid arguments, all of these old, stupid, archaic arguments that people like hurling at us nowadays because we're supposedly all nouveau and whatnot, and it's all about trends and stuff like that are hurling at us, right? This is all the same shit with a different face, you know, that a lot of like gay and lesbian bi people have gone through since time immemorial and forever. It's not quite politically correct nowadays to attack gay and lesbian people, right? But it's free game when it comes to people like me. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen to gay and lesbian people. It usually just becomes more underhanded, right? But with people like me, it's blunt. Anyone with a phone can get up and just spread hate about someone like me. Which again, spilling over from America into my country and probably the rest of the world. I just, like, I walked away and I largely avoided as much as possible, and I kept it fluffy for the longest time, and it's just like, I'm just watching stuff revert.